Hello everyone, it's me Pavlo, and today we'll be talking about interesting player Shanling M8T. And T here stands for tubes. And that's what makes this player really interesting, because it's a player with tubes amplification, but not that trendy Korg GNU tubes, but full-featured vacuum tubes made of glass and metal. Shanling used their experience with vacuum tubes that they use creating full-size amplifiers and other tube device, and they came up with a pretty brilliant idea on how to put these tubes into the portable audio player. And they created this model. It's Android-based app. And it has all features, modern features built with Snapdragon chipset, Android 13 with Play Store. It has powerful amplification up to 500 milliwatts for single-ended output and more than 1000 for the balanced out. As DEC chips here used dual AK4499EX, which also makes it really interesting. And here you getting three types of amplification with different sound signatures. Transistor one and two kinds of two tastes of tube sound, and that all came with a relatively reasonable price of $1,500. So it's not even like $3,000 something. So pretty interesting device, and let's have a closer look. Box is pretty compact, and that's the thing I really like. You can see that polygraphy is pretty simple, but at the same time it looks really nice. Here pictured the most interesting part of this player, the top side with tubes, and letter T composed of two tubes. On the back side, just some basic technical specifications, but not much about the sound, more about like overview of hardware used here. And here is the inner box. It's interesting in terms of opening. It opens once and twice. On the top we have a player itself. Let me pull it out. And underneath goes box with accessories. So let's see what are we getting here. Just a bare minimum. USB Type-C cable, protective screen, and a set of things you need to apply. That's it. Unfortunately, no case in the accessory set, which I think is a bit of miss for this price range. Shanling are pretty consistent when it comes to the design language. They always use this shape of rectangle with rounded edges, but through many years they often changing something a little bit to give players a new and unique look. And M8 is not an exception. It has this nice wavy textures on the side, but we've seen it before. But another interesting aspect that they finally found a usage for this notch in the screen. If you've seen previous Shanling flagships, you can understand that they bought a batch of these screens with notches from some smartphone manufacturer, and they were trying to give some useful meaning to this notch. If in M9, if I remember correctly, they put some screen here, but in M8T they found the perfect usage because they put here tubes under this protective grille. You can see two tubes, you can even see their suspensions, and in my opinion it looks kind of unusual and nice for the portable audio gear. You know, such reference to the full-size tube gear. Here it looks pretty attractive. Despite of noticeable weight, it feels pretty solid in hand, but 6-inch screen is really big, so it's not that easy to control it with one hand. So you'll need to use two hands for the better control. Anyway, looks pretty nice. It's not pocketable, of course, but we're living in the era of non-pocketable flagship players. Interesting, pleasant back panel with glass-like material. It gathers fingerprints, but it's easy. They are pretty easy to wipe. Overall build quality is really solid, nothing is shaking, nothing is rattling, and even this encoder feels really solid. So it's rotating with light, pretty soft clicks, but they are registered pretty well. And also you can press it to turn on and off the screen. On the bottom we have micro SD card and the USB Type-C connector, and only one connector here. That means that this connector is used for charging, to use it as DAC, as a transport, to access the files and other things. Speaking about the charge, it has a really huge battery inside, more than 8000 milliamps per hour, and it gives up to 15 hours from the single-ended and more than 12 hours for the balanced output. But in practice, I usually got like about 13 hours from the single-ended and about 10 to 11 hours for the balanced output. Those are pretty good figures, taking into account that we have a pretty good DAC chip here, powerful amplification, fast chipset, and a lot of other things. Of course, battery lifetime will also depend on mode you will be using, tube or transistor, on load, gain, and other aspects. And also it will depend on the screen usage. On the left side there are 3 buttons for playback control. They are pretty tactile with nice well-defined clicks, so really good buttons. And on the front there is a big 6-inch screen, pretty bright with nice viewing angles. Actually, you know, by any means a pretty decent screen with good registering of swipes and gestures, with pretty fast Android system. So nice, decent screen. And let's talk about firmware now. Player runs on Open Android 13 and you'll get Play Store, but for some reasons also call APK and APK Pure. And of course main application is Shanling's player, but let me first show some minor additions that serve the music purpose of this device. So here you can switch between phone out and line out. Also there is a work mode switch, Android mode, Prime mode. Basically the same thing as Android mode, but instead of launcher you'll get just a Shanling player, and that's it. USB DAC, Bluetooth amp, and AirPlay. In my opinion, it's pretty convenient to have such modes switcher. Also, you can select low-pass filters, gain 3 levels, also switch between tubes and transistor. I'm not sure will it be visible on the video or not, but tubes started glowing. And for tubes you can also switch between triode and ultralinear mode. So basically 3 really different distinguishing sound modes. Also here in the settings there are settings for the audio playback. You can see them: low pass filter, output mode, gain, balance, boot volume and maximum volume, what Bluetooth codecs you want and what LDAC codec subtype you want. Here in the display you can turn off LED if you don't like it. And also, in general, you can select key lock, double tap screen to wake, and stuff like that. And main application, of course, is Shanling's player. So here is menu, library update, and you can browse library by all tracks simultaneously and by folders, albums, artists, genres, separate for high resolution and separate for playlists. Everything is pretty fast, snappy, and really convenient. Of course, there are all options like select some files, delete them, and stuff like that. Also here you can transfer files via Wi-Fi, not the fastest method, but if you need just a few files, it's really convenient. Access to NAS and SyncLink. SyncLink allows you to control this device from other Shanling devices. And in the settings, language, sleep timer, resume playback, automatic transition from library to playback, skip folders. Actually, I won't be reading, I just scroll this slowly. You can see everything yourself. So, basic settings, not super rich player in terms of settings, but all basic stuff that you can need is here. Let me start playing some track, and here is now playing screen. As usual, album cover, lyrics, and information about the file. If you want, you can activate this visualizer or VU meter. And also here you can access DLNA servers, add to favorites, change playback, so all that traditional things that we used to have. In general, it's a really nice working firmware. Shanling already solidified their code base, so you're getting all that features here. Of course, you can install some third-party players, you can install streaming services and other stuff like that. So convenient, nice, good working. It's definitely a Shanling's player when it comes to the sound, and it has three really different sound modes, and none of them can be called neutral or focused on the micro contrast because you're getting three types of musical signature, with transistor mode being less colored, but still slightly shifting toward the warmer side of things because treble is slightly recessed here in terms of energy put into this region. Overall, it's pretty natural and balanced with good dynamics and resolution, but this less than usual energetic treble means that it sounds a bit warmer and weightier than usual. With tubes, you're getting even more warmth, you're getting more highlighted harmonics, and the difference between the triode and ultralinear mode is that triode, sorry, not sure about correct pronunciation. Triode mode gives you even more highlighting of emotional part of the vocal and instruments, giving even more vintage and analog-like sounding, and ultralinear is just adding a bit more weight and not that much highlighting that odd harmonics or even harmonics. I don't remember which ones should be highlighted to make this typical tube sound. But let's probably talk about everything step by step. So bass goes to the maximum depth, it's nicely controlled, it has a decent resolution in the transistor mode, but it's not trying to be super fast or focused on the small nuances. Overall amount of small details is enough for instruments to sound realistic, and transistor mode gives a good balance between the speed and weight. With triode mode, it's highlighting that overtones, it gives more body to the instruments, and all the instrument that goes to the low frequency range sounds super saturated, with big body, with big sense of presence and slightly moved forward. And the ultralinear mode, it's in between. It's highlighting instruments, but not that much. So, first example, it's Alborosie, Kingston dub tone, really deep, powerful, big bass, and even in this transistor mode, it sounds pretty pleasant and nicely defined. With tubes mode, it became more forward, and with in the triode mode, it became really overwhelming. So if you want bass boost for such tracks, probably ultralinear mode will be a nice choice. But it's a matter of taste, of course. And as usual, I forgot about my favorite feature of the Shanling players. It orders favorites by alphabet, not by the order of adding. I don't know who thought that it's a good idea, but it's not. Anyway, second example, it's Passione by Musica Nuda. It's a live record with really highlighted acoustic double bass, and in the transistor mode, you're just getting nice representation of this instrument. In the ultralinear mode, you're getting more focus on the double bass, and it's slightly shifted forward, and the vocal of Petra Magoni is a bit laid back. But in the triode mode, you getting vocal moved forward once again, because overtones are highlighted and vocal starting also getting into the main stage. Mids are almost neutral. In the transistor mode, I can call it neutral with great resolution, and of course with natural instruments and with good imaginary stage. In the transistor mode, it's the biggest for me option in terms of stage building. Not super critical for the quality of records, but in the transistor mode, it's the most critical one. Because it's definitely show you the difference between the different masterings and stuff like that. Instruments are uncolored, no attempts to boost, I don't know, upper mids, for example, or something like that. With ultralinear mode, you getting more worms, you getting more weight in the instruments and vocals, and with triode mode, you getting all that additional emotions highlighted, velvety, honey type of sound. It's definitely a hit or miss. With some tracks it does absolute magic, with others not so much. But luckily here you can turn it on and off, which I think is a great feature, possibility to change between these three types of sound signature. And examples for the mid frequencies are, let me see, first one is Child in Time by Deep Purple, absolute masterpiece in terms of instrumental, but of course mainly in terms of vocal. And here you can either focus on the vocal by activating this triode mode, or you can focus on the melody, more on the track in whole, by activating the transistor mode. With ultralinear tubes, you are kind of in between, with more highlighted bass part of this track. And what is the second example? Is Summer Moved On by Uehara. Here I definitely prefer this triode tube mode, because it saturates vocal, and of course it adds a bit weight both to the instrument and vocal, which makes it sound not 100% natural, but overall result is really fun and engaging, and I enjoy it. And treble, it's not energetic, it's really good in terms of quality, in terms of extension, in terms of attacks and decays. Layering is pretty nice here too, But with all three options, treble is slightly softened in terms of energy, so it's probably a good thing for those who like not harsh treble, and maybe not that good thing for those who like forward treble signature. But it's just the way this player is, and in general I'm not liking treble, especially after some usage. But just keep in mind that it won't be that airy, energetic, super powerful and forward treble. In the transistor mode, it's just a normal treble, typical for the high-end players, but with a bit less energy put here. In the ultra-linear mode, you're getting a bit of softness, and in the triode mode, you're getting even more softness. In treble, it's still good in terms of resolution, but overall representation sounds a bit weightier and not harsh. And let's talk about the examples. First one is the Seeker by Hiromi Uehara. In all three modes, pretty enjoyable treble representation. Fortepiano sounds are really natural with all that high frequency notes that goes to the treble. But here probably I prefer ultra-linear mode most of all, like in between option with the most interesting type of representation. And David Bowie, the man who sold the world, guitar with overtones and vocal overtones goes to the high frequency area. And for this track I prefer the transistor mode because I like this track with a bit of spiciness and splashness. In terms of pairings, pretty expectedly, it's a really universal device. It has low background noise with sensitive IEMs, so no issues here, good black background. And on the other part of the spectrum, you're getting pretty high power from especially from the balanced output to drive power-hungry cans without any problems. Speaking about the conversions, actually just a few models as a reference, because M8T is kind of player on its own that really stands out from other models. So compared to the regular M8, it's a step forward. You're getting three modes, you're getting more resolution and dynamics, you're getting more mature sound, especially it's noticeable on the treble. Shanling M9 Plus, it's more natural, more dynamic, more natural, more resolving, especially in the treble area, but M9 Plus is also more expensive as far as I remember, and less tube colored compared to this one. FIO M15S, it's also more natural, and basically, all the difference of this player and others is that in this tubes mode, I haven't tested KN-N7, unfortunately, that offers tubes too, so I can't compare. But, if you're thinking about M8T versus some other players, just think whether you like the idea of this highlighted, sometimes thick musical tube sound or not. If you like it, M8T will be a great option for you. If you like more natural and more like detailed monitoring signature, you probably need to consider some other player. But luckily we have a lot of options, and having this player with interesting coloration implemented in a mature way is a great thing to have. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and have a great day.